right, I'm back here. I did a whole part 1 here with how to use a calculator with these numbers up here when you're squaring stuff. Now we're going to talk about what happens when we square root things. Now, these are asked to round our answers to the nearest tenth. These are not nice numbers, so they're not going to come out nice. So when we're looking at something like these, you can see there's some negative numbers here. Like this one right here, -8. Or the 8 squared, and then square rooted, and then you have the negative after the fact. So on your calculator, what you're doing is you're going to do the 8 square rooted first. So you're going to type in 8. And now on this calculator I see the square root button right here. Each square root button's different on calculators, but this particular one is right here. If I hit the square root button, I get this long decimal, which is an irrational number. And if we're rounding to the nearest tenth, 2.8. So we look at the 2. The 2 does not make that 8 change. It's going to stay at 2.8 because it's to the nearest tenth. And then because it's got the negative after the fact, or outside of it, we throw the negative at the end, or at the beginning of the number. So it is -2.8. Now we do the same thing with 27. So we're going to do 27. We're going to hit the square root button. We're going to get this long, ugly decimal. We're going to look at 5.1. Now this is the number we're looking at in question. So we look at the 9. 9 is going to make that 1 round up to a 2. So my answer would be 5.2 if it was positive. But because it's negative, square root of 27, it's going to be -5.2. 14 square rooted, you just do this. 14, you hit the square root button. 3.7. We look at that 4. The 4 is going to keep that 7, 3.7. And so my answer would be 3.7. So that's how you put square roots in. Now the only difference between these, where there's a negative inside of the square root button versus when it's outside, is you can do the square root of a positive number, no problem. But then you throw the negative on the after the fact. So you do the square root of 300, and then after the fact, whatever your answer is, which in this case is 17.3, we throw that negative on the outside of it and call it a day. Now with these two, square rooting something means a number times itself. So these numbers, and I feel really bad because this is not just, these should be plus and minus. Because when you're dealing with square roots, it's not just the positive 9.6 times 9.6, it's also -9.6 times -9.6, which would get you a positive 92-ish about. And I really should be doing, now with the ones that have the negatives outside of the radical, these ones are correct. But then these ones right here really should have a plus and a minus with them. And I'm a terrible math teacher for not doing that because I always think about the positives and I never really think about the negatives, but you do need to do that. All right, let's go back over here to this. So really quickly, these, we're going to put not available. In Algebra 1, we don't really deal with this kind of stuff. We do deal with it in Algebra 2, where we have imaginary numbers. But for right now, we're just going to leave these because we can't take, like in this case, this is a perfect square. 25 would be a perfect square, 5 times 5. But you have a negative under the root. That means that you somehow would have to get a negative number, but you can't get a negative number because it's a number times itself. So 5 times 5 would give me 25. -5 times -5 would give me positive 25, but nothing's going to give me a negative 25 under the radical symbol. So this, I'm going to, just for right now, put not available, and I'm just going to put imaginary next to it. And again, we'll get into that with Algebra 2 when you get there. But for now, this is how you would go ahead and use your calculator for these types of questions. Again, you can find me on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, YouWantAlgebra. These are all located in the roots and exponents section.